Mina, tell me this. Who do you have winning tonight? Break it all down for me.
Yeah, I've got the Miami Dolphins bringing it to 2-7 for a couple of reasons. I do think it's entirely possible that Josh Allen puts on his cape and turns into Superman the way he did week 1 and makes this close. I thought he was excellent, by the way, week 1. I saw Dan talking about that earlier. For me, though, this is about the other side of the ball. You laid out some of those Dolphins injuries. Sounds like Achan's probably going to play. I am significantly less worried about those absences than I am about the Bills not having Taron Johnson, who, honestly, is their best player on defense, and certainly in the back seven. Up front, you've got Greg Rousseau at Oliver, and so important to a secondary that really has had a lot of turnover over the last couple of years, obviously at the safety position, and they're going up against, of course, this Miami Dolphins offense where it's less so about what kind of pressure you can get up front because Tua gets the ball out so quickly and whether or not you can execute a plan on the back end. You take Taron Johnson, who's one of the best nickel corners in the NFL, out of that. It's hard for me to think of ways for this Bills team to consistently get stops against Miami tonight.
I'm taking Buffalo. I think, one, this is going to be a relatively high-scoring football game, which is a little bit abnormal for Thursday nights. And certainly week 1 of the NFL, I think because of some of the stuff that I saw from Miami's defense in week 1, and then also, to Mina's point, some of the injuries on Buffalo's side. Buffalo offensively, I thought last week what stood out to me was their ability to diversify their pass game a little bit more than maybe what we've seen in Buffalo over the past. I thought Keon Coleman is going to be a guy. Khalil Shakir, really good slot receiver. There are multiple tight ends. James Cook is a pass catcher. I think tonight is a James Cook game. I think tonight they run the football. They ran the football last week well in their 12 personnel, 1 back, 2 tight ends, which they're capable of doing Buffalo. Miami struggled to stop it last week against Jacksonville, doing just that, putting multiple tight ends on the field and running the football. I think number 3, Buffalo's defense, I think, struggled a little bit last week in the first half with Kyler's movement and his scrambling, and then decided to start to let Greg Rousseau go to work. I think Greg Rousseau and Von Miller having some success last week bodes well against Miami offensive line last week that I don't think they have a ton of confidence in right now. I don't think the Buffalo defense lights it up. Again, high scoring. I have a little bit more faith in Buffalo's pass rush in comparison to Miami's that it was really the Jalen Phillips show last week.
I'm going with Miami. It's kind of nice down here. The weather's really, really nice down here. And we all know.
Oh, really, Stephen A? Because I never wanted to go to Miami or live in Miami.
It's gorgeous out right now.
No, it's really, thanks for reminding me, just because I was just curious of what it's like down there. So I appreciate it.
You live a good life, so we're not going to get into your spoiled tendencies. The bottom line is this is one of the rare occasions that I have it better than you right now. So the point is this. I'm looking at Waddle. I'm looking at Hill. I'm looking at A-Chain and what they can do offensively, and I'm going to ride that wave. I'm still not sold on Buffalo. I don't think that losing Davis and losing Stephon Diggs is something that's going to be easily covered, in my personal opinion. Even though I saw them do what they did last week against Arizona, I do think that in Miami against a divisional foe that you've had your way with throughout your career, if you're Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, I think Miami answers the call tonight. On Thursday night, a short week of preparation. Buffalo still getting acclimated to some of their new personnel and stuff like that. I think Miami, you got Tua and the rest of the crew. They're accustomed to being with one another. I think that on a short week puts them at a decisive advantage, and I think they take advantage and they win this game. They'll lose in Buffalo in a matter of weeks, but I think that they'll win tonight.
So I actually am picking the Dolphins as well, and because the Dolphins, to me, need to make a statement. Now, this isn't a must-win. If they lose tonight, we completely write them off. But November 3rd, Stephen, as you just mentioned, when they face the Bills in Buffalo in Week 9, that is a must-win in my opinion. But tonight, they do need to make a statement because they're playing at home. It is early in the season. And, Stephen, you mentioned Tyreek Hill, and they got Jalen Waddle. Tyreek Hill, historically, since he's come to the Dolphins, has not played that well against the Bills. The Bills their defense has figured out how to stop him. He hasn't topped over 100 receiving yards. He's catching less percentage of his passes playing against the Bills defense. He is going to need to have a big game. Obviously, the Bills defense is going to say, how do we take out those two guys, him and Waddle? How do we make them beat us in the run game where they clearly have injuries right now. But I think with this Dolphins offense, I think Tua finds a way to do just enough. Even with Josh Allen doing the Josh Allen things, I think at home, even though weather will not be in their favor tonight because it's not going to be hot, it's a night game, I do think the Dolphins pull it out.
I'm trying to figure out.
I guess my question for Miami, Dan, is just how do you defend that deep middle?
You're Daniel, he's Steven.
I thought he's Esteban.
Well, Molly at the beginning of the show, Mina, Kimberley, at the beginning of the show, Molly was calling me Esteban, and I was like this. No, it's Esteban. It's Esteban.
Yeah, but I will say you look like a Bond villain, like in that getup. You do kind of.
Like,
all I know is he's so much happier there. It's like not even.
How are you defending the deep middle, which you know Miami loves to slice through that part of the field?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons, and to your point, like why Tyreek's been shut down a little bit by Buffalo's defense is Buffalo's defense isn't built to play, I don't want to say like physical, but smash mouth football. They're built with speed. They're built with athleticism. That's why Taron Johnson never comes off the field. So it is a favorable matchup for Buffalo defensively when it comes to just like scheme. I think that's one of my big questions too is Mike McDaniel, and I love him and I love Miami's offense. Will they run the football a lot? Like, will they? Because I think Buffalo wants to challenge them to do that on a consistent basis. And if you watch that Jacksonville game last week, and I know Tua gets the ball out quicker and better and more efficient than anybody, but it seems like Buffalo likes to counter that in trying to, the way they play defense. If they're going to challenge over the course of 4 quarters Miami to do it, especially at home, will they? Because if you take away one of those big plays last week, the 3 that they hit, Miami loses. And I understand, like, it's easy to say that.
Really? That's what you just said? That's what you just said? If you take away one of the big plays. Well, the big plays is what they do, Dan.
And
that's what they do.
Buffalo's defense doesn't give that up consistently.
The Buffalo defense before, didn't you educate us about some of the changes that took place with Buffalo's defense, that it's not the same personnel?
Yes, but
guess
it's a
what?
structural
The
thing
dudes that
as
was
well as a personnel thing.
Structural, but do you have the personnel that can do it? They ain't going against these brothers about to go against Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill.
Yeah,
but that's what's about to happen.
Did Esteban get you there?
I just want to plant my flag here, Dan. I think that was about the Jags defense. I think that defense is one to watch with Ryan Nielsen. I was so impressed by their game plan against Miami. I think they're better than Buffalo.
I agree with that.